Hello everybody, I am open to Module 9, and in this module we are going to be covering Chapter 10, which is Social Psychology. Here is the to-do list that goes along with it, and let's jump right into the objectives. In this chapter you're going to be learning a lot of the applied areas of psychology. Social psych is very much applied to many different domains. So I find that this is usually a chapter that a wide range of individuals like. Usually my criminal justice students, education students, health, humanities students. It applies pretty much to anyone, mainly because it's looking at the whys of social behavior. And we're all social beings, so it's very applicable. You'll start out by looking at aspects of conformity, which helps us to understand how we act as individuals and how we act in groups, what happens to the individual in a group or around a group, and what would conformity look like when it's good and when it's bad. So we'll be looking at some negative aspects of conformity, and then also some aspects of why we need to conform in order for society to get along. We'll also be looking at compliance, which is basically saying yes to a request. It's somebody asking you something explicitly and you're complying. So think of it like a patient following a doctor's orders, or a student following a professor's orders, or a child following a parent's orders. You can kind of take it to many different dyads of people, relationships, and see how that would work. Then we start getting into obedience, which is more obeying authority figures. Now, obeying authority figures could be similar to all of those that I just mentioned. We obey our parents, we obey our teachers. But obedience is also something that happens when we feel inferior, or we feel that we're in a position where we don't know a lot, or we don't understand what's going on, and so we're more likely to obey people we perceive as having power or having status or knowing more than we know. So we're going to get into a lot of the ins and outs of how that works. So basically you're looking at three main things throughout the whole chapter, which is conformity, compliance, and obedience. And then we're going to get more into how do we change people's attitudes. So here's looking at the topic of persuasion, very handy in the field of business and marketing. Taking a look at, how do we get people to like something or buy something? How do we sway people's opinion, maybe when it comes to policies or voting? So all of that is a fun area of psychology that we can see used in those settings. We'll then be looking a little bit at how we form impressions of other people. So we'll be talking a little bit about nonverbal communication here, how we go about attributing causes to why people act the way they do. Anytime we see someone act in a given way, we always say why. Why did they do that? Or what made them do that? Or I've never seen them do that before, that's odd. Or, oh yeah, I always see them do that. That means nothing to me. That's just who they are. So we kind of make lots of assumptions or attributions which explain or try to explain people's behavior. That's going to segue us into the topic of prejudice, racism, and discrimination, which we'll spend some good deal of time on, and then get into stress reactions, coping with stress, just very briefly there, before we then go into theories of love and attraction, starting with the very basic friendships and moving into more love relationships, marriage, different kinds of love, theories on love, then followed by a little bit more of aggression, looking at theories of aggression. Why are people aggressive? Is it inherited? Is it biological? Or is it something we learn in our environment? The end of the chapter will finish with looking at bystander intervention and pretty much pro-social behavior, which is altruism. It's acting in a way that's going to benefit others, not necessarily yourself, and the person who acts may even get harmed in trying to help another person. So that's how we'll finish up the chapter. Lots of good stuff there. Again, this is an entire course. I teach social psychology. Sometimes I teach it online, but I definitely teach it in class during the regular semester, and I just love it. It's one of my favorite areas of psychology, and there's so many fun things that we can do with it. So I hope you enjoy this chapter. Here's your lecture slides. You're going to be watching all the videos in episode 16, which is social psych, plus an extra video that I've posted here, which is a modern day take on the Milgram study. Now, this is really important that you watch this video after reading this Hawk reading number 40, Obey at Any Cost. And the reason being, you should always be doing the readings first before you watch the videos, but here especially, this Hawk reading is the original Milgram study done by Stanley Milgram back in the 50s, and it is looking at principles of obedience, and you have to kind of understand how the original study was done, what the hypotheses were, what the findings were, all the different factors, and that's actually going to be part of your discussion is talking about some of that. And then you're going to be watching this video, which is a modern day take on the Milgram study. It was done by Stanley Berger just maybe 15 years ago, I think. And some differences came about, but a lot of similarities. So that's something that you can integrate into your discussion here is what changed, I want you describing at least one recent event. That's something you come up with on your own that mirrors the Milgram study. So not the Jerry Berger study that you're going to watch here, but an event, something recent that happened where you saw obedience play itself out, maybe in a destructive manner or maybe not. Obedience isn't always a negative thing. Sometimes it can be very positive. But the Milgram study had some negative effects, and it was pretty much the manner in which the study was conducted, the outcome of the study. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about a recent event that you want to pick for this. And as you're describing here in number 1, you can integrate in some of the newer stuff. Okay, so the newer study made some changes to the original study to make it a little more ethical, that you're going to see. They also included females. The original study did not have females. It had men only, so that was a big difference. So lots of good things to be talking about in your discussion this week, and I hope to see that you're integrating those in. Then you're going to finish with quiz number 9, and that'll be it for module number 9. Thanks, everyone.